Hey guys, it's John and Morgan with Longhaul Lifesavers, and today we have a pretty hot button topic. What came first, the chicken or the egg? So we're not actually going to talk about what came first, the chicken or the egg, but there is a debate within the RV community. What should you get first, your truck or the RV?
So we're not talking about motorhomes at all today. We're just talking about travel trailers or fifth wheels.
Yep.
What do you think comes first?
If I started completely over and didn't have a truck or an RV, what I would do is walk through a bunch of RVs, found one that I liked, found out how much that weighed, and then bought the truck accordingly.
Right.
Now that'd be different if I already had a truck. Mm-hmm. If I had a truck already, I would figure out what my GVWR for that truck is, and then buy an RV according to what I can tow. What a lot of people don't know is the GVWR based on your truck. If your RV weighs more than that, if you were to get into an accident, your insurance won't cover it because you are operating above the safe parameters for your vehicle.
Yeah, and even if you get pulled over by a cop in some states and they look at the sticker
it's a big ticket.
on the side of your RV and it says what weight, and then the sticker on your truck says what weight, and if you're over, they can ticket you for that too. To add to what he said, if you're somebody that already has a truck and you know for sure that it's not in the budget or you don't want to change trucks, then really research what your truck can handle so that when you go to a dealership, you don't even waste time looking at ones that you can't pull. Because like we had that happen when we first started RVing. We had a 2500 Ram Mega Cab. The very first RV that the guy showed us was like, what, 10,000? Yeah, it was like way over what we could haul. Yeah. And so we fell in love with an RV that we couldn't have. And unfortunately dealerships will do that to you because they don't care. You know, they just want to make the sale. Now, some dealerships will not sell you a RV that is overweight, which is good. That's great that they're doing that. However, it doesn't stop the salesman from showing you things that is overweight that you end up falling in love with. Yep. If you're willing to upgrade your truck and get a bigger truck, then sure, go ahead and look at whatever you want.
The other thing a lot of people don't realize is, yes, your truck may be able to physically tow the rig, but it can't stop it. So
safely.
Your brakes on your truck are only rated for that GVWR. So if you go above that, your truck's gonna have a difficult time stopping, even if your RV has trailer brakes on it. It just doesn't compute. It's not set up. It's not engineered for that.
And we see a lot of people that will say, oh, you know, I have a 1500 and I'm pulling, you know, whatever size RV and it's way over. And then you ask them, oh, okay, well, where do you typically RV at? And they say, in Florida. Well, one of the flattest states out there, you know, there's no mountains, there's no hills, you know. So if you're going to be somebody that, you know, say you're buying an RV in Florida and all of your driving has always been in Florida, but you want to head west, your truck's not gonna make it up those mountains.
The other thing we see a lot of people doing is getting a truck that's below the rating and then doing upgrades.
Yeah.
So adding an extra leaf or air suspension or helper spring, something like that, which is all great. It's gonna make your ride more comfortable, but it doesn't change the GVWR of your vehicle.
Or the braking.
So your insurance still isn't gonna cover it, and your stopping distance hasn't changed.
Right. That's a big one. We see that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot, you know, and people will say, well, I have airbags on there. It's great. No, I mean, yeah, it'll make your ride, like you said, it'll make your ride smoother.
Let's say you had a 2500 or a 250, 3/4 ton, and you needed to pull something that would require a 1 ton. If you wanted to do upgrades, the way to successfully do it, to change your GVWR, which you would have to change your VIN number and everything like that to get it actually coded correctly, you would have to change your rear end, your brakes, your front end suspension, your rear end suspension, your drive axle, and your front drivetrain. By the time you add all that in, you might as well just went ahead and bought a 1 ton. Yes, you can do upgrades. It's nice to have. It makes your ride more smooth and more comfortable for you, but it doesn't change your towing capacity.
Yeah, and for us, when anything regarding towing is, number one, is it legal? Are we gonna be covered if something happened, God forbid? And number two, is it safe?
Not just for you, but for the other individuals on the road.
In regard to trucks, the other hot button thing you always see is, do I get a gas or do I get a diesel? You can pull an RV with either. Yep. It doesn't really matter. They're all gonna get the job done. However, a diesel will get better fuel mileage and it'll typically last a lot longer than a gas truck would.
Yeah. So, and there are pros and cons to both of them. Some of the pros to a gas vehicle is when you're not towing, you have a quicker acceleration, get up and go.
You can stop at any gas station.
You can stop at, a lot of gas stations because there's some that don't have diesel. The maintenance on them is cheaper. So
kind of.
That's a myth. We're going to go over that, but people say it's cheaper. But the drawbacks is you can lose towing capacity and longevity of your engine. So the benefits to a diesel is you're going to have the longer engine life and you're going to get better fuel mileage. Typically, it used to be that diesel was cheaper than gas because diesel is a byproduct of gasoline. So it generally was cheaper. Now that they become more popular, it's actually a little more expensive, but
it fluctuates just like gas does. And depending on where we are in the country.
Some cons of a diesel truck is, like I said, the expense could be a little more, and then when you're not towing, you don't have that real quick acceleration because they are turbocharged, so you have that turbo lag to where you can get up to your full speed.
But if you're someone like me who drives like a grandma, I thoroughly enjoy driving our truck because, it just kind of putzes along, and
So let's disband this myth of diesel trucks are more expensive. So if you actually sit down and do the math, so let's say
done multiple times.
You actually do an oil change for a gas engine is 3,000 to 5,000 miles. So on the safe side, it's 3,000 miles. So you do one oil change every 3,000 miles. That's, say, for round numbers, we'll say $100. So
a little high.
It depends on what kind of oil you use.
Okay, all right.
But
so round numbers.
Oil filter, everything, $100. For a diesel truck, you do it every 10,000 miles. So you think 3,000 miles to 10,000 miles. So you'll have 3 oil changes on a gas vehicle before you would one time on a diesel. So when I get my oil changed on a diesel truck, it's $150. So you think you're doing 3 oil changes on a gas vehicle at $100 a piece. That's $300 compared to one oil change of $150. So your maintenance, when you actually crunch the numbers, is cheaper on a diesel truck. Now, the parts, if something were to go wrong, are a little more expensive on a diesel truck.
Right. And like major mechanical things would be more expensive on a diesel than it would be on a gas.
But if you're just, everybody always says the maintenance is more expensive, but if you just look solely at the maintenance, oil changes, tires are going to be the same. That doesn't change between gas and diesel. So if you look at the actual maintenance of the vehicle and crunch the numbers, it's actually cheaper to own a diesel truck.
Yes, for like daily.
Yes.
Yeah. Personal preference, do whatever you want. They will all work, but we prefer a diesel.
If you're wanting to get more power out of your vehicle, now this is not EPA compliant and we're not condoning any of this, but if you wanted to,
yeah, I can't believe you're saying this.
If you want to get more power out of a gasoline engine, there's little stuff you can do, but you're not really going to get a whole lot of power out of it. If you're wanting more power, you have to replace the internal components of the engine. Now, if you're wanting more power out of a diesel truck, it's very simple. It's plug and play, and a lot of times on the tuners, you can get 100 to 200 more horsepower out of your diesel truck just by plugging in a tuner.
Just in case you need to get your groceries extra fast.
Yeah. So when we had our first truck, when we started traveling, we had a 2006 Ram 2500 and it was a diesel as well. We didn't have an RV at the time, so I found a website, which if it's still active, I will post it in the description below so that you guys can go to this. But what you can do is type in your VIN number and it'll give you your full specs on what you can tow, your GVWR, what hitch weight you can carry, what PSI you should run your tires, everything like that. It gives you everything. If I can find that website and it's still active, I'll post it in the description below so that way it makes it a little easier for you guys. If I can't find that site and it's not posted in the description, you can always go to your manufacturer of whatever truck you have and they can give you your build sheet and it'll tell you, depending on your axle ratio and everything that your truck has, what your GVWR and what it can accept to tow. Okay, so let's talk about what actually would come first. Now there's a couple different scenarios. So like we said, if you already have a truck, that obviously would come first because you have the truck already. So now you know what you can buy in an RV. On the flip side, if, say, we've had a couple people that their family said, here, you can use my RV for travel nurse. So now they've gotten that RV first, and now they need to find out what the weight, dry and fully loaded weight of their RV is, so that way they can take those numbers to the dealership to get a vehicle for that, whatever that RV is rated for. Now, if you're starting fresh, brand new, no truck, no RV, what we would recommend, so that you don't go to an RV store and find something you love and find out you can't tow it, what we recommend is going and picking out your RV first. What's going to work best for you and your situation, and what you like and feel is going to be the best for you. That way you can know how much you have to tow and then go get your vehicle. Now, what I would recommend is always go larger than you think you're going to need. So if you're right on that cusp between a 1500 and a 2500,
get the 2500.
Definitely go with the 2500, because if you add weight or decide to sell your RV in the future and get a different one, maybe you want to go slightly larger, you don't have to buy another truck because you've already bought bigger than you needed. I always work on the premise of the bigger the better. If I could have a semi,
he tried.
I would have a semi.
He tried to do the semi, but I convinced him that not every hospital has a parking lot that he can fit into with a semi, and a lot of hospitals have parking garages, so you're definitely not.
I was going to get a stretch one and then weld a flatbed.
Oh my gosh. No, we're not doing, I'm not driving a semi to go get groceries.
I'm just saying.
So, but we did choose, we've had 2 dualies now, and we will never have, unless if we sold the RV, stopped the RV living, we will always have a dually. Just because the stability with a dual wheel versus a single wheel rear axle is night and day difference.
Especially in the wind. You don't get a whole lot of that drift because you have that wider footprint.
Yeah, when we had a single wheel pulling, you know, especially out west where it gets real windy through the plains and stuff, I mean, we felt like a kite, and sometimes you felt like the back of the truck was just pulling all over the lane. The dually, you don't feel any of that. And even not towing, his dually can take curves on a mountain better than some of the sports cars.
It's like driving a Ferrari.
It really hugs curves because it has such a wide footprint.
And just as an example, you know, we recently said that we were looking at other RVs to buy, and our friend actually went with us to look, and she was looking at some that her vehicle, she didn't feel safe doing it because she didn't have the dual rear wheel.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But she's totally within her weight range, so she could easily tow it and stop it safely. But just because we do a lot of traveling out west, she didn't want to run the risk of having that kite effect and it pulling her all over the road. So that's kind of food for thought too. If you're looking to buy a truck, think about where you're going to be traveling. Are you going to be in really windy places? Are you going to be in the mountains? Things like that. The other thing that we didn't talk about with the diesels are exhaust brakes.
Yes.
And we had a really weird thing happen. This was actually, I think, one of the only issues that we've ever had with our RV. We had no brakes for 2 whole years. Not a single trailer brake at all. And
it's not like we didn't try and get it fixed too. We went multiple times. They just couldn't figure it out.
Yes, and the brake, what do you call it? Hub?
The magnet?
No, but the whole package.
Yeah, the hub.
The hub, brake hub. So they ended up sending a tech from Lippert down to Mississippi to look at it because it had been replaced so many times they couldn't figure out why we didn't have brakes. The magnet that controls the brakes was installed backwards. So every time John would push on the brakes, it would actually push them apart instead of together.
No, you have that backwards.
Or whatever it is.
So the magnet, when you activate it and you push on your brakes, that magnet is an electromagnet, would engage and it would push the brakes out against the hub and help you stop. Well, they had it flipped. So when the magnet is flipped, instead of pushing out, it pulled the brakes in, so it was actually giving me even less stopping power.
Yeah, so, but we never knew that, and when the brakes were replaced, they never found, because it was sealed from the factory from Lippert, and it was all sealed in there, so they never knew that that magnet was backwards, and it wasn't until the tech came that we figured that out. But we had an exhaust brake, and we did Idaho, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada. We did all those mountains with no brakes, and had we not had an exhaust brake, we would have just right off the mountain. So
yeah. And even when you're driving around without something hooked up like a trailer, you can still use that exhaust brake and save the disc brakes on your vehicle. because it's more of kind of like an engine brake.
We should probably talk about, some people call it DEF fluid, some people call it DEF. It is a pain in the butt.
So if you don't know what she's talking about, DEF fluid is diesel exhaust fluid. And what it is your liquid urea. And they have ports that go into your exhaust. So when your exhaust is running, this urea is sprayed into your exhaust to eat up the carbon, to make it cleaner. That's what CARB and EPA says. So that's what the DEF is, a diesel exhaust fluid. It's just sprayed into your exhaust to clean out the carbon.
Right. So you see old diesels on the road, or even semis, that blow out all that black smoke. It's because they don't have the filters and everything that the new trucks have, and that would naturally clean out the exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now we hit what they call regen cycles.
Yeah.
And when you hit a regen cycle, you basically lose all power.
Yeah.
And the truck just decides to kind of do it on its own, and then it'll blow all that crap out.
It still blows out black smoke.
Yeah.
So
we are not fans at all of the EPA or any of the stuff that they have put on these trucks. Yeah. It's actually made it kind of safety hazards in a lot of ways because, for example, if you're going up a mountain and you hit a regen cycle, you have a very real likelihood of rolling backwards. Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're in traffic, like in Atlanta, going 85 mile an hour, and then all of a sudden you have no power, that's very dangerous.
What the engine does in a regen cycle is it shuts down your intake port and shuts down your exhaust port. The engine revs high, but it disengages the transmission. So you rev really high, and what it does is it burns off all the carbon buildup in your engine that on the old ones would normally just get blown out. So it burns it all up and creates a high temperature in your engine, and then opens them all, your intake and your exhaust, simultaneously, and blows out all that hot black smoke. So you're still blowing black smoke, but now you run the risk of overheating your engine and your truck catching on fire, which is happening a lot. So there are ways to...
Don't say a lot, because they aren't recalling anything, so it can't be that much, but we've seen it.
Look on YouTube on diesel trucks catching on fire, and they're all over the place. There is a way to turn all this off and disengage all this. In some states, in quite a few states, it is still illegal.
And I feel like it's getting even stricter about what, like if you do travel in California, do not do anything to your truck.
Yeah.
Do not do anything.
There are 50 state legal programs that you can place on your truck to get more power. And what it does with the regen cycle is it shuts down the automatic regen cycle so that you can have your truck parked in your driveway and then push the regen cycle so you're not on the highway, you're not towing, and you tell your truck when to do the regen cycle. So there are ways around this that are 50 state legal.
Right, but what I'm talking about is don't do big modifications to your truck if you're going to be in California.
Don't do an exhaust, don't do an air intake, don't do the EGR delete, all that stuff.
Because California doesn't play. They don't like it. We actually got turned around at a border checkpoint going into California on his old truck because of modifications he had done. Live and learn, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the heaviest smog cities there is. And it's
LA.
What the hell? What's my truck gonna do?
Yeah, apparently all the Priuses put out way more.
But it's funny because if you look at a lot of testing that isn't done through the EPA and the CARB and the car manufacturers, independent testing bodies, they will take an old diesel truck that you see blowing black smoke, and they have a sensor that tells you how much carbon soot it's actually outputting, and it's actually I want to say it was 57% less than what the carbon output of a modern diesel truck is. It's actually more beneficial to just blow the black smoke out.
But let's be real, it all comes down to
it's money.
The money. So anyways, we've talked enough about trucks. Like we've said, this has been a hot button topic. We see a lot. Kind of really do your research. Don't trust the truck dealership or the RV dealership to tell you. Learn yourself.
Know your numbers before going in, because they're just going to tell you whatever to try and sell you a vehicle or an RV. Know your numbers and know you need to hit those numbers before you buy anything.
Right. Oh, one more thing about, here we go, back to the trucks. And I'm talking to a lot of the ladies about this one. There's a kind of a misconception about when we talked about single rear wheel and dual rear.
It's hard to say.
Wheel. That is really hard to say at the same time.
Single wheel, dual wheel.
Yeah. So I was very intimidated because we came from a single axle or a single wheel, and I was intimidated at first thinking that the dually was going to be a lot harder to drive, like because it was too wide. Turns out the turning radius is 100 times better than it was in our single rear wheel. Backing into sites or pulling forward into sites or doing, you know, like a loop or a cul-de-sac or something like that, the turning radius is way easier. And that's the other thing a lot of people say, do you guys have problems parking or getting into places? The only time we ever have any issues with the dually is some of the fast food drive-thrus and banks. You cannot get into, I don't know why they made the bank drive-thrus this big.
For a smart car.
Do whatever you think, whether or not you think the RV comes first or the truck comes first.
That's going to be it for today's episode, guys. We hope you got some good content out of this, and hopefully it cleared some stuff up. Like I said, I will post in the description below the website if I can find it. Hopefully it's still active, so we'll see. So if you got some good content out of this, don't forget to smash that like button, share and subscribe, and then head on over to Instagram and follow us at Longhaul Lifesavers. See you guys.
Bye.